This is the Travel and Tourism Show on Star FM.
We are Star FM, sounding good all the time. Welcome to the month of April, #freedom, and welcome to the Travel and Tourism Show. We have a special guest tonight. We have Mr. Givemore Chidzidzi, who is the COO of the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority. I'm Mazwi Shamu. Mr. Chidzidzi is here to help us catch up with various initiatives and things that have been happening within the tourism industry. Mr. Chidzidzi, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mazwi.
How was your Easter?
It was wonderful.
That's
Blessed.
good. Did you rest? Did you travel? What did you do?
I rested, I traveled, and I went to church.
That's great. That's great. For me, yesterday, as I was driving into Harare, along the Harare-Mutare Road, the traffic was incredible. I've never seen traffic like that ever. Okay. Can we take this as a sign of a growth of our domestic tourism?
Yes, if one looks at the definition of domestic tourism, strictly we can say that is a sign of the growth of the domestic tourism, because when we talk about domestic tourism, it's travel by people from places of their usual residence to places within their country. That is domestic tourism, for whatever reason. So I don't know what would have prompted all those people to be on the roads yesterday. They were coming from the long weekend or going back to their places after the long weekend. But what it shows is that there is movement, and that travel constitutes domestic tourism. What we just now need to understand is what was the motivation, and what did the people do, and did they engage in any economic activity, which is of necessity, because if you are traveling, you've got initially to buy fuel, and you travel, and you get some eats on the way. You've got to, if you're visiting family, you take some presents with you, and so on. And that is what we call tourism. But what it is pointing to is really the increased mobility of Zimbabweans. Yes.
Yeah. At some point, I actually felt like stopping at the side of the road, putting up my own roadblock and doing a tally and finding out, like you're saying, where are you coming from? What were you doing? Were you on holiday? Were you visiting friends? I really felt I wish I could do that sort of thing so we could get that sort of information. But I also know that there are a lot of things that have been happening within the country and that have led to this sort of thing happening. ZTA as well has also had initiatives, the domestic tourism drive, that they've been pushing for more people to visit local places. What sort of things have been put in place to encourage domestic tourism?
First and foremost, I need to point out that the Honorable Minister of Tourism and Hospitality Industry, Honorable Priska Mufumira, launched the domestic tourism campaign in January. And at that stage, we were talking about the increased participation of Zimbabweans within our tourism, and also we are talking about making tourism accessible to all sectors of our society, in terms of price, in terms of even the physical accessibility. So this was pronounced in January, and as part of the Honorable Minister's 100-day program, we have domestic tourism promotion. And we in the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority, being the implementing agency for tourism, we have embarked on various initiatives, like you have said. But one of the projects that has been undertaken right now, which is reaching completion, is we call it the Domestic Tourism and Outbound Survey. And this is a survey that was being carried out by the Zimbabwe Statistical Agency, ZimStat, and the Ministry of Tourism and Hospitality Industry, together with the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority. And Mazwi, I want to say that your wish of mounting a checkpoint to find out where these people were going, I think some some of the answers you get them out of that survey. Unfortunately, it was not spanning over the Easter holiday, but it started before Christmas and went into the month of January, into the February, the field work. And right now, the experts are busy analyzing the findings of that survey. That is, which asks whether people travel, where they travel to, what motivates them, what they do when they travel. And we are needing that information for us to refine our strategies for the domestic tourism campaign.
Good. I want to pick up on what you said about accessibility, the physical things. A number of guests who have come onto the show have mentioned this as one of the problems, that we've got great tourism facilities within the country, but accessing them is really difficult. How are you helping to push that accessibility is available in areas such as, let's say, World's View up in Nyanga, for people to be able to drive their low cars or whatever type of car, anyone to be able to access those points?
Yeah, when I get this question, Mazwi, I always now want to take people back to school in the sense that we need to understand that tourism depends on what we call the 5 A's of tourism. And on the 5 A's of tourism, the first one is the attractions. There has to be something that attracts a person in the first place. Whatever it is, whether it is a natural attraction, a man-made, or an event or an activity, but there must be an attraction that will attract a person to visit a certain place. Then comes the issue of access. How do you get there? That is the other A. And when you get there, you might need accommodation. And then there are the activities that the person will embark on, and then the other amenities that make everything possible to take in whatever they want to. So when we talk of access, we are talking now of air access, road access, even if it is access by whatever other means, water, but that has to be sorted out. And the success of tourism and even the attractiveness of any place hinges on that. Now, the places you have referred to, obviously, we all are aware of the state of our roads in the country generally, be it in the urban centers or beyond. They have actually, a lot of them gone beyond their lifespan. I think the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure Development themselves have admitted that a lot of our roads need to be attended to, and this is very visible. So when you now go to remote places like the one you've mentioned, World's View, the roads have to be made passable. People must be able to drive up the mountains there to go and reach attractions or places like World's View. And what we do now as the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority through our parent ministry is to engage those that have got the responsibility to make these places accessible. They are either under the local authorities' jurisdiction, whether it's town councils, municipalities, or rural district councils, and in certain cases the authority would be, for example, Zimbabwe Parks and Wildlife Management Authority. So we have to engage them, and this is what we are seeking to achieve through the National Tourism Sector Strategy. We should be a rallying point for everyone who has got anything to do with tourism, because there will be a role in that National Tourism Sector Strategy for facilitating the free and smooth movement of tourists within our country and into our country.
Okay, I'm going to come back to that in a second. But as you were speaking, I was just thinking, are we prepared for the huge numbers of people who are now traveling within our country? Because our international market, I'm sure, is also growing as fast as our domestic market is growing. Should they exceed your anticipated capacity? Are we prepared for that?
Yeah, I think we always have to be prepared for growth, and growth is inevitable in this particular instance. With the goodwill that we have in the various markets, international tourism is set for a serious rebound, and then obviously you talked about the increased or improved mobility of the Zimbabweans, and as we also move towards our our national vision of being a middle-income country, obviously you are going to be seeing a lot of movement because as affluence increases, obviously the need to travel also increases. And in this particular instance, we are going to be found wanting in terms of capacity because our country generally is seriously under-hoteled. We don't have adequate hotel capacity in the different classes or in the different categories for accommodation. And then obviously the issue of transport. Already you talked about the huge amount of traffic that you encountered just after this Easter holiday. It is probably going to get worse because if we don't have mass transport, everyone is going to be wanting to drive in their own car as individuals, and obviously that will mean we need to create the possibilities for mass transport. I think our bus transport, our rail transport need to be looked into, and then obviously the capacity in the places that are visited themselves. And when the numbers increase, obviously the management of those places in terms of visitor traffic also has to be improved. I think we've now been seeing maybe delays at toll gates. Times, you want to just go through a toll gate, and we want to hope that those that are responsible for the toll gates are going to be innovating. The technology is there where one does not even have to stop to swipe. We just need to hop onto the technology, because those are some of the capacity issues we are talking about. I mean, having to drive for 10 minutes to get outside town, and then you get to a toll gate and you wait for another 30 minutes just for you to pass because there's a queue, someone swiping, someone echo caching and things like that. And those that don't want, we must now start thinking of express lanes, for example, where I can prepay my toll gates just like they do in other countries, and electronically the car is picked up and it debits your prepayment, and off you go without having to wait and open windows and swipe and wait for the network. So the country has to be prepared, and I think it's about going digital and embracing the ICTs in the fullest sense.
Absolutely. Going back to the National Tourism Strategy meetings, how have they been received?
The National Tourism Sector Strategy consultative meetings have been very well received, and I want to say that they were extremely well attended. We had them throughout the country. We did Harare, Bulawayo, Victoria Falls, Masvingo, Mutare, Chinhoyi, and the consultative process has been ongoing. It wasn't restricted to those areas because as a tourism sector, we are also embracing the digital era that we are in. So at every place we were streaming live, and we had people contributing from as far as America, Europe, Australia, contributing to the proceedings. So we want to say that the consultation was very wide and thorough, and we managed to pick up all the issues. And I think our parent ministry, the Ministry of Tourism and Hospitality Industry, is now seized with finalizing the reports. There's been a validation workshop that was held just a week ago, and following that we are expecting the National Tourism Strategy to be launched in the not so distant future.
Okay, yeah, you've just answered my next question, because the question was going to be what's next after these meetings. People have said very positive things about the strategy meetings, but one of the underlying things that people have said is we want some of the things that have been brought up to be implemented.
Yeah, we are very much conscious about this syndrome that has characterized our nation, that we are very good at doing workshops, reports, meetings. And filing them and not doing anything. And with that consciousness, obviously, we don't want this particular strategy to have the same fate as other strategies have had. So it is going to be implemented. The launching is going to be very soon. I'm sure within the next 2 or at most 3 weeks, we are going to be seeing the launch of this this strategy. We are very excited as the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority and as a tourism sector, because for once we will have a common rallying point for any player and anyone who has something to do with tourism.
That sounds exciting. Another thing that you are driving is the registration of tourism operators.
Indeed,
what is that all about?
Right. The laws of the country say that no one shall operate any tourism facility, designated tourism facility, without registration and licensing through the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority. Now, I think over the years, we have had a proliferation of tourism operations, especially in the accommodation sector and in the restaurants category, who are just operating and they are not complying with the provisions of the Tourism Act. So what we have done is, within the 100-day program, it was to intensify the drive for people to register. In other words, to enforce the Tourism Act. So in January, again, the Honorable Minister of Tourism and Hospitality Industry gave a deadline of 31 March for those operators that were operating without regularizing their operations to come forward and register and regularize. And I'm glad to say the 31st of March has come, and I think it was said that the 1st of April we will intensify now our campaign and start enforcing the law to the letter in terms of whatever the law provides for operating without complying. And we even advised people that 1 April was a coincidence. It was not going to be another 1 April Fool's Day gimmick. It was real. And right now, as I am talking to you, we have got teams that are all over and are visiting those people that have defied the call to register. And unfortunately, they would have invited closure to themselves. Because if you are operating a restaurant or a hotel or a lodge and or a car hire company and you have not registered, it's just calling the authorities to come and do what they have to do in accordance with the law. This is a law of the country, and you find you have some people who are saying, why should I register? And I remember this morning asking someone, why should you stop at a road traffic light when it's red? And I think that defiance in our people is actually there, is creeping in, and it's very dangerous for people to have a culture of just defying the law. Laws are made by the people. The Tourism Act was done under a serious consultative process, and if people want a law to be changed, they need to go through that process and change the law. But as long as it is there, people have to register.
Yeah, ZTA means business. Yeah. Sounds like you are cleaning house.
And we are open for business,
okay.
By the way. Just like Zimbabwe is open for business, we at ZTA, we are very much open, wide open for business. And contrary to what people might want to be thinking, because here I'm reacting to what some people have been saying, why are you closing unregistered restaurants when you are saying Zimbabwe is open for business? And I'm saying, how can a person be asking that? Does open for business mean that anyone can do anything anywhere without any rules, any regulation? I mean, when you go and play soccer, there are rules and regulations. When you go and play rugby, there are rules and regulations, but it doesn't mean that the game is not open to be played. So tourism industry is very much open. It's one of the easiest sectors to enter into, but we need to protect the tourist at the end of the day. So registered operators in the public is encouraged to utilize the operators that are duly registered, because then they are subject to the scrutiny of the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority. If it's registered, you can go there and sleep in a place assured that it's been subject. You don't risk being woken up at night when we start now visiting this place and say, can all these people check out because you're not registered? So people ought to know that it's for the protection of the traveling public, of the tourists, but more so for the economic benefit of the country and social benefit.
Yeah, it sounds good. It sounds good. It sounds as if you're standardizing everything and creating benchmarks on how things are supposed to be.
That's the whole idea of registering, because when you register, there are certain minimum standards that we look at. So we will not allow an operation if they don't meet certain bare minimum standards. Then we go up now as we grade. Like for the accommodation sector, you can have an accommodation establishment that is not graded. There's nothing unusual about that. But if it is an accommodation establishment, we definitely expect that there should be a bed where someone sleeps on, and there should be a possibility for someone to bath in the morning. There should be a possibility for someone to brush their teeth and so on. Those are the bare basics that are there. One can register an operation, not gun for any star grading. But if one wants 1 star, there are minimum standards for a 1 star. If you want 2 star, there are minimum standards, even 5 star. And what we are doing in this whole exercise, if one doesn't meet the grade, obviously we will just confirm the grade that they meet. So if someone is masquerading as a 4-star hotel, we will visit them and say, no, you are not a 4-star hotel according to the provisions of the Tourism Act and its ancillary regulations.
We are Star FM sounding good all the time, and we are speaking to Mr. Givemore Chidzidzi, who is the COO of the Zimbabwe Tourism Authority. ZTA is cleaning house.
Yes,
there are so many things that are happening that they are trying to make sure that everything is brought to standard. And we also talked about the domestic drive within this program and the national tourism strategy meetings that have been happening nationwide. If you happened to be one of the people who participated in that, he says in a few weeks' time, we should see the national tourism strategy coming out soon. Mr. Chidzidzi, it has been a pleasure having you in the studio tonight.
Thank you very much, Mazwi. It's always a pleasure to be here. And please, let's keep talking tourism, but not only talking, but also doing tourism.
Absolutely.
So we expect you to be out there next long weekend or any break. Please just go around the corner and see what's there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. Please follow us on my Facebook page, Mazwi Shamu, or you can participate in the conversation, send through your feedback. My WhatsApp platform is 263-734-610-613. That's all we have for you tonight. So until next time, happy traveling.
Thank you for tuning in to the Travel and Tourism Show on Star FM.